we're back again for
Hey,
another
we're back.
exciting episode. Welcome.
Oh, thank you. Very excited. I think last time we talked about a lot of topics, profit, analysis. We went into the funnel. And yeah, very excited to kind of tackle new things in this session.
Yeah, and I think we closed off with the email marketing kind of concept, and we kind of unpacked that for some time. And I think this is going to really tie in well because I guess like all of these theories and all these practices are all
Yes.
good to talk about like in theory, and it's like we can discuss it and we can say, oh well, this is what we would do, and this is how we would do it, and I would do this, and you would do that. But I think it's great to always revert back to kind of like that practicality of like show me, don't tell me, and I think in terms of what we do inside of Ecom Capital, like that's always a big premise of all of the decision making is like I want to be able to showcase to people our brands. I want to be able to showcase to people what I'm doing literally in my businesses every single day, that I'm using the same strategies that I'm teaching so that they're actually relevant for people day to day. And so what we're going to do in this episode, like we kind of discussed and agreed upon before, was actually break down and use almost like a case study experience of one of our clients that's gone from zero, brand new business, and I believe he's up to about $70,000 in sales in 90 days. Is it? Is that right?
Yes, about 3 months is like right now crossing actually 71,000 in total sales. But yeah, very, very much fast growth, 0 to 10K the first month, like 9,000 something, and then
Amazing.
scaled right now, like really, really in terms of volume, like we're getting there in terms of, profit targets, everything.
Yeah, it's fantastic. It's really, really epic to see. And so I think for the listeners, I think it's really valuable because like, that whole kind of like idiom of success leaves clues. Like if you can implement more of what has been done here, like it probably will, benefit your business. And if you listen to this and go, yeah, but that's him and it's not me, you know, then
It's like
then nothing's gonna
that
come.
doesn't apply to me. I'm not gonna be doing it. Okay,
Oh,
I'm just
I'm past all that stuff. I'm so yeah, all things aside, really excited to jump into this. So let's perhaps start with maybe the business. Let's unpack the product a little bit and kind of explain to people what that looks like. I know you've been doing a lot of work with Reese. So do you want to start with that in terms of what the product is, some of the specifics around that in terms of how he was able to do that? And maybe we'll keep some of the sensitive details private, but just overall we'll kind of give some detail on what the product is.
yes, absolutely. So first, it's a product that's really like in terms of audience. Like if I was to think about like in general, like what's the element that really helped us position well the product? It's the avatar. So if you think
Mm,
about it, it's all about the avatar. So it's a very specific it's like the product is like a for people that are in the construction space, and they're
mm,
looking for a product where they say it's shorts, but they want to use them for work, but also they want to use them for workouts. So it's kind of multi-purpose. And if you think
mm,
about this product, it's like it appears to be simple, okay, just like a simple product, but it's very aimed
mm.
at that avatar. So it's a workwear designed to perform, and this is what he mentioned in his like his story.
Mm,
If you look at it, it's pretty much mentioning this right away. It's a workwear that's designed to perform, and it's really
mm,
focused on that element. So that's kind of the first thing
mm.
that I would put in an avatar that's really clear to him into a positioning.
Yeah. And I think it's interesting because like we discussed earlier when we were reviewing the brand, like, you could take that same exact product, right? Exactly the same product, and you could target it just to an audience of gym goers or fitness people, and they would not buy it, and you would get no money, say like nothing. It would tank. You know what I mean? And so it's such an amazing like demonstration of like similar product just being slightly adjusted and disrupted and made really specific to a particular audience. And for anyone who might be like even in, I know when I used to work in construction, bless those days. And
Hey, man, it's the past.
and you wear your nail bag and your tool belt and you're banging up and down the ladders all day and you're like moving around so much, but you have to wear these like thick like fabric, almost the khaki, like the pants that you wear, like they're so thick, they're so hot. As you're getting up and down ladders, you're always, just about stumbling over because you can't move around in them. Then you try and like bend down to get on the floor and do something in terms of like screwing fixings down. It's horrible. Like it's very, very, very challenging to move around with those types of pants on, especially if they're the long variations. And so I think what he's done with this is like really identify a nice
Yeah,
pocket of
strong
the
pinpoint.
market.
That's it. If you
And a
think about it,
strong
it's
pain
really a
point.
strong pain point. And it's even mentioned, like if you look at his store, it's mentioned in the homepage. If someone would go to the store, it's even mentioned if you're tired of restrictive, uncomfortable
Mm,
workwear, with
mm,
us. It's crafted for actually hard work, move fast, push limits. It's really strong positioning in terms of his marketing, where a person
mm,
would come in and be like, hey, I have this pain. This is what I want. And the moment you start playing on emotion and exactly positioning the right things with the avatar, playing on the pain
mm,
points, you're going to get conversions. And that's kind of, I would say, one of the ingredients that helped him build his business fast.
mm. And so just on this point, so when people are kind of going through the whole product selection, product like development phase, and they're thinking about like, oh, should I sell this product or should I sell that product? Like, what do you think it is that, Reese has done here that has really helped, just from your perspective of observation of him? Did he have this problem himself and then he solved it himself, or was it more so like he observed something in the market? Like, what was it specifically do you think happened?
He is he's like, this is also, I think, something that I would observe sometimes in terms of people that are looking at really great solutions. They are most of the time the avatar. So they understand the pain and they're coming in from that angle. So he is actually understanding the pain and he designed this as a solution for himself, but also obviously to position this in the market. So it's really from that angle. Now, in terms of,
Mm,
I would say, if you're looking at a product or looking at an opportunity, if you bring in a solution for something where you know it's painful, so you felt that pain, there's nothing more real than that. And that's, I think, really a strong positioning in general in the market. And it's
mm,
also, I think, Jeff Bezos mentioned this, like mercenary versus, let's say, missionary. If you're really coming
mm,
in and you're like, really, this is like a mission for you, you're gonna always dominate
mm.
it because you're coming in from a pain perspective and you know it's a good solution. So it's kind of why it worked super well, and also what you should seek in terms of,
Mm.
avatar and product.
I love that. I think it's a great kind of description there. And I mean, like if you think about why most founders like start or build a particular brand, it's like either they observe something that they have seen in the market that's a potential profit opportunity and they just see that. But most of the time I find that, if they have that pain themselves, they don't need to be as good at like researching or validating or doing all these things. It's like, this
They
is
understand.
horrible. Like
I
I
feel
can't stand the fact that I bend down and my shorts rip 2 times a week. It's like if I could
like
solve this, this
they've
would be
been there.
fantastic. Yeah,
Yes, and
yeah.
it also makes the ads so simple because they can literally design the ads because they felt it. Like, hey, this is the angle
Mm,
that we need to tackle, and the performance for the ads, the performance for everything is. It's kind of, again, it's like almost you're hacking the systems because you know the pain, and I
mm,
think that's in your, if you're looking at, let's say, you want to get to 10K fast. That's the first thing. Hey, I want to get to 10K, and I want to get it within, let's say, 60 days, 90 days, whatever period, but let's say we want to get it fast, you need to really think about a solution where there's pain. If there's pain, there's a conversion by default. And that's the
mm,
first thing I would
mm,
think about. Do I want to convert people? Yes. I need to find something that's painful. That's the second thing
mm,
I'm thinking about. Because
mm.
otherwise they're not going to be, they might just wait a little bit more. And if that conversion
Correct.
cycle is longer, then I'm going to be waiting more. I don't want to wait. I want it tomorrow. And there's
Yeah.
nothing faster than someone with pain. And if it's 10 out of
Mm.
10 pain, they're going to give you money right now.
I was explaining this concept to one of the clients at the event over the weekend just gone, and I was kind of like sharing about this like continuum almost of like pain where, so say for example, especially when you're launching a new product, and Eugene Schwartz, I think I have his book there behind me in the bookshelf. He talks about the levels of sophistication in terms of how sophisticated people are, in terms of are they product aware or problem aware, or are they unaware, like the different stages, that kind of buyers go through. And I was saying, so when you, for example, launch a new product, and exactly as you just mentioned, so if there's a high degree of pain, they're going to be like actively looking for a solution, right? And so, like, if the pain is lower, you need to agitate that pain. You need to bring it up to the front of their mind. You need to make them aware that there's a solution that could actually fix that pain. And so, all of that movement of their sentiment just costs advertising dollars. You know, it's like,
Like you want
yeah,
them to be looking for the emergency, like ER. Where is the ER? Like that's what you want.
correct.
You don't want
Yeah.
to be like almost like inviting them, hey, take an appointment. They should be seeking help. They should be really looking for it. And the moment they see it, they need
Mm,
to really, like, this is like they see the pain. It's like almost like I need to act right now. I need to act right now.
yeah.
And I think that's, as you mentioned, that's the strong thing that you want to position is, removing that barrier of you need to explain more. You need to kind of, take them to the next level and kind of explain the pain, but with the solution more, that's just going to be more ad spend, and you don't want that. You want really fast solutions where the pain is strong.
Correct. And the interesting thing about this, because I shared this with Stephen as well as we were having this conversation, was so that you can also uncover and unpack like a pain that maybe wasn't known. And the example that I have here was there's that company, that Lucent Globe, and they have the sheets that you put into the dishwasher to replace like the detergent, right? And so what they did is when they first came to market, no one knew that there was any issue or any problem with the current dishwashing tablets. It was like,
So they
well,
show it.
these
This
are
is great.
great. Like, these are fantastic. These do the job, and they clean the dishes, and my dishes are squeaky clean. And then as soon as this other product came out that was a comparison of like, did you know all these chemicals exist in this product? And then this product that we just developed has zero. All of a sudden, it's this huge kind of like disruption of like, wait, what? I've been lied to, you know? And so I think the only caveat maybe to obviously in an ideal scenario it's like there's another brand that I've worked with that they have a product that sells to people with like chronic fatigue syndrome, and it's like very specific, very targeted. The audience, they're like, please help me fix this problem. It's like 10 out of 10. When you have that pain, it's like just get rid of it, and it's this supplement line that apparently like alleviates that pain, right? And so that's the ideal situation. But then like what you also have access to is also that ability to provide some kind of alternative,
So
you know,
show them the problem. So kind of
something that you never knew existed. Oh my God, does that mean that I should change my detergent, you know?
yes. That's what they call like in marketing. I think it's actually the cut and band-aid strategy, where it's like, hey, you kind of cut them, like, hey, this is painful, and then this is a bad thing.
Mm,
Like it's really like when you look at it from that perspective, then
yes,
positioning something that's painful in the marketing and then telling them
correct,
about the solution. So I think that's
correct.
always like how you can position things.
It's so interesting. Years ago, when I first started getting into this game, I remember I was on this consulting meeting, and this is an amazing example of exactly this principle of like leveraging the pain, right? And so I was sharing exactly this similar concept, how you need to kind of like the example that I got first taught was you're the doctor, and the doctor kind of like assesses the body, and he's like, okay, so lift your arm up, okay, doesn't hurt. Lift the other arm up, it's the elbow, it's the
Perfect.
elbow. And so, like as a marketer, you need to identify, you know, those sore elbows. And I was sharing this. I was sharing this with some clients in the call, and one of these clients, she got very very like upset, and she was like, I just can't do this. This feels I just I'm not sure. It just doesn't feel right. And it was like really interesting because what happened was her getting upset, right, in that call, and she got really, really kind of upset. I think she cried, and she was like, "This just feels like I don't want to make people feel bad, et cetera, et cetera." And I was like, "Well, you feeling bad right now by me sharing this, does that make you want to do something about this?" And she's like, "Yes." And so I'm like, your reaction to what I'm doing right now is an example of what I'm exactly
Of
demonstrating.
exactly the same thing.
And she was like, oh my God. And it was such like an interesting experience because I explained it and then she literally enacted it and got so upset and then literally just changed on the spot. And her whole perception was like, oh my God, I really want to and want to create and it came full circle. It's just such an interesting example of it. So I digress massively. I don't mean to go on a rabbit hole.
I think it's actually what you're tackling is the main component to actually get that fast, push into
Mm,
10K. Because otherwise,
mm,
if you have a product where there's no pain, like there's no urgency, you mentioned this, like I need to really unpack things, and it's almost like I'm kind of coming in with more time, which is not necessarily how
correct.
we kind of want to position things. If you want to get something fast, the pain should be there, and it should be very strong. And
Mm,
and, and I think it might not be something painful, like let's say someone is actually, let's say, hurt or anything. It's more of there is a pain in something they're doing, and you want to
mm.
really show them that you have the solution. So I think that's the first ingredient to get to the 10K.
Yeah. No, very good. So just to round off on the product side of things, I think what was done really well with this brand was the specificity. Absolutely. Very, very specialized avatar. And the cool thing about this as well is if you think about the product, it's so like the construction worker market, like it's not like it's pretty large. You know what I mean? And so like for his product, it's like the construction worker market, definitely males, right? But then it's also a certain subset of that market that's probably like maybe 20 to maybe 30 or 40. around about that range. So it's like the younger people that want to move around. They're still more active. They're maybe more fitness oriented, but they obviously work a trade all day. So it's like a subset of a subset of a subset, and that's why it's actually cut through so well.
Yes, that's the thing. And if you look at, let's say, the process itself, so I'm looking to launch a business. Let's say I want to get to 10K fast. I need to really look at this. And the example I think about is you're coming into a stadium and you have like all this audience, and your goal is to just captivate a segment of that audience, but to really connect with them. So you don't want to just, let's say, sing a random song. You want to sing a
Yep.
song that would connect with that pro or that audience. So you need to be specific, and the pain need to be clear. So I think that's going to
Mm,
be the first thing or first ingredient. Probably the second thing that you look at is the lead time, how fast you can sell something versus getting back money. Because the 10K would come
mm,
only if you can, get your money fast. You put the money in the ads, there's a return,
correct.
have the money in your account, put it back. So that kind of lead time and or conversion cycle need to be shorter. And I think that's the
Mm.
second thing that I would add in terms of getting to 10K fast. Do you
Yeah,
think the
no,
same of that structure?
no, I think that's really, really, really accurate overall. And I think people just get a little bit too afraid to niche down that specifically, because it's like, is there enough customers? What about if I want to sell to female tradies? Or what about if I want to sell to, you know what I mean? And all of a sudden
They don't want to. They don't want to. They don't want to do that. They want to keep
you
that.
become, I was sharing a similar thing with one of the team members today, just in terms of like, the worst thing you can be is the worst like for me personally, I always think about this kind of like, just like internal reflection, where I was like, I'd rather be hated for the thing that I believe in than not have an opinion, or have an opinion and don't share it. Right. But it's at least, and it's the same as this concept. It's like, some people you need to piss off, right?
There
And
is
they're not
always
your customers, you know?
there is always a portion that you want to connect with, and most of the time you want to relate to that 20% of your audience rather than the 80% that's going to be not necessarily
Correct.
complaining, but they're not the right customers. And you have the
Correct.
20% you focus on them, and you're always going to have a portion that's going to be not they don't like what you're doing, or it just doesn't really, they're not linking to like
Mm,
they don't relate to your ads, or they think that's not a good product. But that audience
yeah.
is not part of yours, and you should focus only
Mm.
on the 20%.
And the thing is with this, like, even if you think about the construction market as a whole, a lot of that market are like an older demographic, right? And so a lot of that market would probably look at the advertisement for this product in terms of like like short kind of gym short workwear, and they would think that it was like, what are these idiots wearing? Why would they wear those shorts?
Yeah,
Right?
like
You know,
that's not us.
exactly, but it's brilliant, because like it's completely okay to just piss some people off, and it's actually advised, because then at least you create polarity of like, these aren't my people, these are my people, and these people are all going to pay me at a 6x ROAS, rather
Yes.
than trying to target everybody, you
That's
know?
the thing, and you need to really think about your audience. That if you look at the whole market, then you're gonna have people that are not like they're gonna be against your product, almost like they're like, hey, don't buy it. And then you have that segment that just buying, and that's what you want to focus on. And I think in this
Mm,
case, it's really adapting the avatar. Like the product is adapted to the avatar, and they're coming in and they're sick of the product, kind of always like they buy something, it just tears up. It's not adapted to their life, and they see this. I'm like, hey, this is a solution and I want to buy this. And I think that's the first ingredients that we should look at here in terms of getting to a 10K. You need to really find a
mm.
product with its pain and it's also a clear avatar. If you don't have an avatar, we have a problem.
Mm. Yeah, I think that's exhausted to some degree, this first initial part of that kind of stage. So just in recap, really, really, really clear kind of specificity on the avatar, high pain threshold, or high desire to actually solve that problem if possible. I think those are some of the main ingredients. And then just like a unique kind of product that's just a little bit different. It's like, it's not like the workwear is different, but it's just slightly done differently for a different person.
Yes, absolutely.
So
And sorry, go ahead.
yeah, so moving into the next stage of how
Yes.
this brand was able to get such quick results, what was the next thing that you think we did or we helped with to be able to produce these results?
Yes. So if I was to look at really everything, so as I mentioned like a little bit earlier, you have the lead time, where that's a strong element, particularly because we actually got a lot of growth from pre-orders. So we were kind of coming into a phase where we run out of stock, and so I was like, hey, should we pause the ads, right? That's the question actually we're looking at. Should we
Mm,
pause the ads, or should we keep running the ads? But if we keep them, we don't have stock, right? So we were thinking,
mm,
hey, let's actually use a strategy that we did implement in eCom Capital with some clients where, we had this situation where, we don't want to pause the ads, we want to keep the business going, and we want to just, build some capital. So in that case, we were like, hey, let's do pre-orders. And we implemented the same strategy that we use with the clients using the same app, same structure. And a week after, he did the best week ever. She was like, hey,
mm,
everything is, we kind of built $10,000 in 1 week, and we were kind of targeting, let's say, 30K in the month, but he did 10K in 1 week with
mm,
amazing ROAS and no stock, and it was all
mm,
funded by his customers. They pretty much paid
mm,
for him to order, and that's kind of the beauty
mm,
of it. If I was to think about, let's say, another element to scale, you need to have some kind of either cash flow solution or use
mm.
pre-orders to build some capital. I think you're aligning on that strategy, correct?
Yeah, I think it's necessary. Like when you, I mean, like my kind of like strategy is always to, for example, have some stock initially. Like always try and work with like a small kind of MOQ, simply just because you want to hedge as much as possible and keep risk low. You know what I mean? Like I like the idea, or I always am a big kind of proponent of focusing on like really high quality, right? So I'm like, let's get some product in hand. Let's make sure the product is really good quality. Let's photograph it, send it to different creators. Let's do some work with it so that I can really demonstrate the quality. Because I think with AI and everything at the moment, people are so hyper aware to, is it fake? Oh, is that
Yeah.
fake? Oh, I don't know if it's real. And so I think like it becomes more and more and more important for it to be a genuine and authentic kind of like whether it's a piece of
Gotcha.
content, whether it's an advert. It's like it really, really, really pays, and it's very difficult. You can do some great things these days with Mid Journey or any of these other AI tools, but you can't sit there and be like, yeah, g'day, mate. I'm out on the job site here with my new, pants, and they're just like you can't do that, and it can't be real, and it can't be like as genuine as what it would be if you were actually creating it. So my position is always like develop that product first. Make sure you've got like a really good, solid kind of like a sample that you are extremely
Quality.
happy with, and you're like, this is really good. Like I love it. It fits well, and then see what you can do to kind of like work down that MOQ as much as possible so you can minimize the risk. Get it either initially straight away, or the alternative option that I really like here as well. Either get the actual order on maybe a 500 units or 300 units, a small quantity, and then start selling just to like test that market. The alternative, which is similar to what we did with Jason, is he couldn't determine which design was the best and which kind of print he wanted to put on his backpacks, and was like, okay, let's spin up all of the prints across all the different backpacks and just make render images of them, and then see which ones people purchase, because that then will base my decision making on which designs I'm going to get printed. So those are kind of my favorite options there in terms of lower risk, and then also being able to get the real quality finish to be able to use in advertising. That's what I kind of like the most.
Keep in mind, it's what we did. Like I do like kind of align on this. You need to focus on quality, and also you need to focus on making sure that you're branding things properly. So that's by default. You need to do that.
Yes.
What I just mentioned is we start with a small amount, and then as we scale, we can also play a little bit on the lead time with some pre-order structure. But we're still
Mm,
getting the order first, small order, doing the content, the branding, everything. That's by default what we do, and then we gradually kind of add in that pre-order structure if needed. And it's very similar to what you mentioned with Jason, where he did like the structure with the renders and looking at the data from there and then building momentum after that. So absolutely do agree on that. And I
mm.
think that's actually the right way to build a business, consistent
Let's
business
um let's
for the
just
next
let's just talk to this pre-order thing a little bit, because I know sometimes it can be really scary, and sometimes you can like think that your customers are going to come and like
yes. And
knock
like
on your door and
explore
be like,
further.
where's my product? So it can be a little bit scary. So what have you seen around like effective pre-order management to do it well, to do it smoothly, to make sure that your customers are also aware of it, and it's like effective, it's waiting, and it's still profitable? What's your thoughts on
Yes.
that?
I think pre-orders are just it's the easy like when I think about it again, just as an example here, if you look at one of the biggest companies here, Tesla, they did kind of a pre-order structure for the business. They built a lot
Mm,
of cash from people ordering and waiting in the first, I would say, stage. People would wait a year to get their car.
yeah.
And that's what because he was really getting the money and then funding to build the car. So it was really a structure that I see it as if you're lacking capital, it doesn't mean that you need to build a Tesla or anything, but just if you're lacking capital, pre-orders might be a solution for you to really get some momentum. So that's how I see it.
Mm,
I see it as a way
mm,
to fund your business and make it bigger if you need the capital.
mm,
Now, in this case here, with pre-orders, the way we look at them is first, we really position it as a pre-order. So it's not like a drop
mm,
shipping store where you're like, hiding things to your customers. You're not telling them about the truth. It's really saying, hey, it's a pre-order and you're going to receive it X amount. Like it's clear the date. And if you have a product where there is pain, and you have a solution that's unique, pre-orders are actually aligned with that because they're going to be waiting because there's pain and they see the pre-order button and there's no alternative. And you can literally mention that they need to hop on the train right now because the units are coming and you put in a day normally and they would buy because of that. So there are some, I would say,
yeah.
ingredients that we add. It's not just a drop shipping structure or something like that.
Mm. Yeah, I think the clarity of the communication is really key there in terms of like I've done it poorly myself where I've like under communicated the time frame in terms of like giving people like, oh, it should be like 2 to 3 weeks, and then ends up being 6 weeks, and people
Yes,
are
and like, hey,
always,
refunds
like
risk.
you'd much prefer to always like over promise, sorry, under promise in terms of like it might be 6 to 7 weeks or something, and then you deliver it to them in 5. Like amazing, like they'll be super stoked. So I think from what I've seen from a timeline perspective, and again, this probably changes depending on if it's a really high like pain product that people need to solve. But generally, we do this a lot with those fishing shirts. We have a lot of pre-sales we run all the time, and 6 to 8 weeks tends to be like 4 to 6 weeks, 6 to 8, 6 to 8. That's probably like
Yeah,
the on
yes.
that's like on the long end of the wait time. Like 4 to 6 is probably like, okay, that's fine. It will impact conversion rate a little bit, but not too much. But then on that 6 to 8 weeks, people will start to be like, oh, this is a long time, like 2 months. Like it's a long
Yeah,
time.
yeah, that's kind of there's a challenge in general is how to position the pre-order properly. And also
Mm,
just to let you know, most of the time with our clients in eCom Capital, we're not only doing just the pre-order structure, we also have a back end that I would recommend every time where they can
mm,
leverage things so that the customers are not asking for refunds or there's no risk with PayPal and so on. There are actually ways and apps to really keep the customers kind of updated. So when they do the pre-order, they receive a certain, I would say, structure in emails where they know they're gonna, let's say, we're not just like abandoning them. They order and then it's
mm,
done. It's
mm,
actually they order, and there's a specific structure in the backend with the emails where they receive series of emails updating them about the orders, keeping them kind of posted, and it actually building a little bit of hype. And also, we have one thing that probably I don't want to share in the podcast because it's mostly like an Ecom Capital, but we really have also an app that we recommend that would give them like almost like a way where they see like the update also in numbers. It's very similar to Amazon.
mm,
And I think that's also another thing we implement to offset the risk of, let's say, PayPal issues and Stripe and so
mm,
on.
mm. Yeah, overall, I think that the pre-sale aspect is super helpful, and I think it also balances out like the volatility. Like let's just use let's use like Shem for example. Like he's a great example of his brand. He launched it. I think he did like 15,000 in the first 2 weeks. Ran out of stock. Didn't do any pre-sales. Had like 2 months of making no sale. 3 months were making no sales. Brought more stock into the company. Sold out again.
Again, yes.
No sales. It's like, you
Same
know,
here. Like no sales. And actually, I think about that like every time you have like he has like spike in sales, and then he's oh I'm out of stock. I need to wait 2 3 months. And I'm
yeah,
like, okay, that's like at this level, probably the pre-order would be like a way to build some momentum because otherwise you're gonna have like sales and nothing, and then sales and
right. Yeah, it's an interesting thing. I think every e-commerce brand definitely goes on a pre-order situation, and I think from like a just an overall cash conversion position, like you want to like from an inventory holding position, inventory is just your cash that's in the form of stock. And if you can, and we've spoken about this many times on previous podcasts, but it's just like if you can keep your cash in your bank account or in the marketing ROI or doing things actively for you as long as possible and not keep your cash sitting in a warehouse collecting dust,
yes.
for
You're
weeks
like,
and weeks and weeks, you'll find you'll have so much more profit. Like you just will.
and there is like what I would call also like a ratio of marketing versus capital, like in terms of stock. So I would most of businesses they would put in 2,000, let's say, in stock, and then they have 1,000 for marketing or something. That's a kind of like again just the numbers
Yes.
in general. But the ratio wise would be 2 versus 1. What I will do most of the time, like look at, let's say, a structure like that, like that's not a good one. I would try to have 10 in the marketing, one
Mm,
in the capital
mm,
or stock. So if I have, let's say, 1,000 for my stock, I have 10,000 for my marketing. And if I have this ratio, then by default, I have more liquid things that are, I can
yes.
put in money in the stock, but I'm still having some money that I can
Mm,
run for the ads. And the ads are the thing that convert like sales. So I really want to keep that in there with a healthy ratio. And I think the
yeah.
dropshipping business model is built entirely on this. It's like they built
Yeah, it
on
is.
I need to have more money in the ads, less money in the stock. But if you apply it to any business, that's kind of the goal. Have more money in the marketing, less money in the stock, and you can kind of build momentum with that.
Yeah. It's so funny because I recall when I first did some like when I really started to do like larger and larger orders, several containers for I was fishing. And I remember I was like, I'm gonna fix this stock issue once and for all. I'm gonna order 17,000 shirts. And I did this tremendously large order. It was like several $100,000.
Wow.
And and it really like it helped. But then what happened was the knock-on effects month after month, accumulation of storage fees, accumulation of shirts that don't sell anymore because seasonality, accumulation of all of these additional things that you
And
just
also
don't
keep in mind you have
realize.
also the stress on top of it because you have so much stock that you need to sell. So your decision making is also a little bit affected because like I have so much stock.
Correct.
Like you're
Correct.
thinking differently because like I need to sell it.
And not just that, but just the straight stress of being like, let's send $300,000 to China. You know
Yes.
what I mean?
Okay. And maybe wait and see if we can get stock. It's
Like
really
it's risky. So I think it's a really useful strategy overall, and I think it's something that when used well and when used in conjunction with like really intelligent sampling, great content strategy and a really good product that can actually like make a difference to the customer that purchases it. These things come together and they really can tremendously change like your overall like net cash bottom line position. Yeah.
absolutely. And it's always a goal. If you look at, let's say, we want to make 10K in 30 days or whatever period, you need to think about, I need to have a position in terms of like low money, a low amount in the stock and really a lot of money in the ads so I can convert them and ideally have my customers fund a little bit the business. And
Yeah.
that's going to be, I
Yeah.
think, the thing to play on. If you really want to make money fast, that's kind of the target. You need to really think
Mm,
about solutions where your customers are a little bit helping in the cash flow. If they do that, then
mm,
you're pretty much, you're set. You're putting money
yeah.
in, you're getting two. Let's say we put $1 in the ads, we make three or four, and then we have the customers waiting a little bit. We can pay for stock. You're almost like, having the ideal scenario where you're getting the money and then ordering, which is really good.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think we discussed this a little bit, and I'm going to run a bit of a challenge with you to see what we can do to build a brand from scratch over the next kind of like coming months and scale it up, because I think this is cool for us to have these conversations and discuss these things. But it definitely whether it's a good thing or bad thing, it excites me to kind of like jump back in and kind of like blow the
You-
dust off a little bit and be like, let's give this a crack. So
Let's do everything, run it and have it kind of scaled and show everything in terms of I think also sharing it would be really valuable for people just to see a
correct.
little bit the back end and the action. So yeah, absolutely.
Correct.
And
What do you think in terms of if you were to spin up a product, Hammond, like say, next month, what do you think you would do? How would you think about it? What would be your kind of approach to taking a product? And that is interesting because like I was thinking about this, I'm like, okay, so if I wanted to just do this and literally just be like, I don't give a crap at all. I just want to make money. I probably would just go find some little drop ship product, sell it, and just burn some money, and then make some money, and then just like shut the thing down. Like because like that's possible, you know what I mean? But then it's like probably don't really want to do that, So I was like, okay, so what's the kind of conservative approach that's more sustainable? I'm curious what your thoughts are.
sustainable, I'll look for what's the most painful let's say, thing in the market right now in terms of just I'll look at an audience and then I'll try to focus on something that's painful where I can fix it fast with the product. And that's going to be the main position for me. It's going to be really driving, let's say, results with pain. And I'll
Mm.
look at pretty much products where I see the gap in the market. So I'll look at the avatar and see, for example, let's say we have like, let's say just an example. This is actually what I worked on in 2020, which was a makeup brush, which really was synthetic fiber and it doesn't cause any problems to the skin. And
Right.
I advertise this very much like within a week or two, you're already doing 20K like in terms of revenue. So it's really
Wow.
about something where you understand a little bit the problem and you know it's a painful problem. So you can really position
Mm.
that in the ad. So I'll look at something painful technically. And I will not rule out digital product, just to let you know. If I was really thinking about, let's
Mm.
say, overall, I want to make fast returns, I'll think about both physical and digital products.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like Olga, I think is it with her
Yes.
pet kind of like first aid kit type product, great idea, great concept, very specific, hyper specialized to a particular avatar. So I definitely think I'm excited because and we'll share it with the audience once we get to the stage when we start actually doing this. But what we want to do is put together like a docu series of us actually going through and taking a brand from scratch and then building it and growing it, literally going through the whole process and documenting things so we can really share with you all the things that we are doing, that we are thinking about, that we are kind of strategizing on in terms of, products that we are looking at and the way we're going to bring those products to market. So I think that's going to be a particularly exciting strategy for us to kind of go through, Hammond, in terms of like
Absolutely. It's
focusing on that and demonstrating some of the things that we actually talk about here.
Yes, I think it's very exciting. Like keep in mind that I really think ecom is just like it's really something where you can actually create solutions and you can see the
Mm,
results and you can
mm,
make an impact. If you look at any job in the world, every person is kind of looking at how can I make an impact? How can I make an impact? You can make an impact on so many, like obviously if you have a job when you're thinking about like the impact level, you might be working for a company that you don't see the impact. But
yeah,
in
yeah,
income, you see the impact. There is an impact. You feel like you're providing a solution to the world, and you can really make money off it. And I think
mm,
that's the beauty of it. And that's actually what drives me every day when I wake up. I'm like, hey, I'm excited because I know I'm working
mm,
in ecom, and I know there's an impact. And because of that, there's just excitement every single time. And that's
yeah.
why I think ecom is so good.
It is. I absolutely agree. I mean, like that's the company's word of the year is impact. Like that's what we want to do this year. We want to make massive impact, and we want to leave impressions and leave marks on people in terms of like really changing and transforming the way they think, the money that they make, and how they can actually exchange their skill set or the value that they have inside themselves for money from the marketplace in exchange for really good valuable products. So I love that you mentioned that as well and brought that up. Let's kind of recap on what we've discussed here today to make it really easy for people to understand. Say, for example, I'm in a position where I'm thinking to launch a brand. I'm considering my options. What would you say would be the core highlight kind of aspects of what we've covered here, Hammond?
Focus on the avatar. Look at the
Mm,
pain. It should be 10 out of 10.
mm,
Look at the
mm,
lead time. You need to really think about, getting that first order, but really managing
mm,
your cash flow. So having more money for the ads than the stock and really thinking about the lead time. That's going to be, I would say that like if I was to look at a painful problem plus a low lead time and a capital that's oriented in the marketing, I'm going to be able to build like something fast. And I think that's
mm.
going to be the first thing I would position to get to the 10K.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think this is a really really cool example, and I'm pumped to do some different case studies, different examples, break down what they've done in new and interesting ways. We've got a few brands that we're going to be working on at bigger levels, which I think would be really really cool to demonstrate to people and share the kind of strategies and the structures of what we're going to be implementing into these companies as we help them to grow as well. So very very exciting things on the cards for the podcast, and a lot of good things to come.
Yes, I'm very excited. I think that again, we're gonna tackle things. We're gonna show case studies. We're gonna actually build a case that like we're gonna do it from scratch. That's also exciting. And as I mentioned, every person wanna always like learn something. Like, for me, it's like not only observation, it's also like you need to show
Mm,
and do it. And I would encourage any person looking at the watching the podcast is to do more actions. Because if you look at, let's say, what is
mm,
learning? Learning is again, same condition, you're doing different behaviors. If you wake up tomorrow and you're like, hey, I watched the podcast yesterday, but I'm not doing anything. I'm just like, it's just the same thing. And technically, you didn't
Yeah.
learn. Sorry, but I'm using here, like, I know that Alex Hermosi mentioned this a lot in terms of let's say definitions and words, but learning is, new condition, same condition, new behaviors.
Yeah.
What I would define as learning as well. And if you're tomorrow waking up and you're like, I'm doing the same thing, you enjoyed the podcast, but you didn't do anything. So you didn't learn.
Yeah.
Now, next thing
Yeah.
you should do actions. That's kind of, I would say, the take of this call, really, or
Yeah.
this session. It's really to think about the actions. Are you doing actions?
Mm.
If you're doing actions, that's like you're learning, and that's the
Yeah.
next thing.
Yeah, and I think the thing is as well, like you're always at the event on the weekend. One of the biggest takeaways that I had, which was so interesting. So everyone came into the room at the start of the first day. Everyone was really like scared, and they're like sitting there, and they've got their little notebook, and they're really professional, and they're all like looking around, like at the people. They're like, oh, like I wonder what that person does, and no one's like talking or asking any. Like it's really like scary, and
Great
everyone's like
change.
so stiff, right? And it was so interesting because within about like no joke, I would say the first like 20 minutes of like us getting into that kind of conversation, the whole entire room was like they're engaging with each other, they're engaging with me at the front of the room, they're super kind of like activated. And I was like, what did it take? I'm like, about that much. Just a little shift. You know what I mean? And so it's like people out there in their lives or their businesses, they're just doing the same thing over and over again. And it's like it just takes a small shift. It's like a little
Yes.
bit of information and just do the fucking action. And that's it.
Yes.
It's
Amazing.
fascinating. Very
Yes.
cool, Hammond. Super valuable episode. I hope you guys listening have enjoyed this one in terms of breaking down this case study. If you did particularly enjoy it, let us know in the reviews, or feel free to drop us an email as well, just at support@ecomcapital.com, and we can go over any of the feedback that you might have. Or alternatively, if you'd like to have us do a review over your brand, or have your brand maybe showcased in here as well, we can also potentially do that in the future. But Hammond, always a pleasure, my friend, and
Sure.
look forward to catching up again next week.
Yes. Looking forward for it.